The stars and stripes wave peacefully outside this San Marcos home. But now, just days before America's 250th birthday, Amy and Chris Cook are being asked by the Ambience Owners Association to take their flag from their garage door frame down.
Having to defend our freedom, to display the symbol of freedom, is something I never thought I'd experience in America.
The red, white, and blue is something the couple displays to honor Chris's grandfather, who died in World War II.
He was awarded the Navy Cross and also the Purple Heart.
The issue comes down to where the flag is installed. The HOA contends this flag is installed on common area property, but the homeowners, now facing a $100 fine, disagree.
Ours is placed on the fascia.
Around the corner, Terry Collins has also been told to take down her flag.
We've lived here 35 years. It's been here 35 years.
Collins believes she has the law on her side. The 2005 Freedom to Display the American Flag Act states in part that a condominium association may not adopt or enforce any policy that would restrict or prevent a member from displaying the U.S. flag on residential property within the association, with respect to which such member has a separate ownership interest or a right to exclusive possession or use. Free speech attorney David Loy says California law allows HOAs to put some limits on the size and location of flags, but
the general rule is that HOAs, even if they're still private entities and not subject to the First Amendment, they still don't have a blank check to say no signs, no flags whatsoever on your own private property.
I understand some of your neighbors have taken down their flags in recent days, but you're leaving yours up. Tell us why.
Because I'm not going to be bullied by them.
The residents will make their case to the HOA board at a hearing Tuesday. No one from the Owners Association returned requests for comment. Austin Grabish, ABC 10 News.
What's up, family? So right outside of home in San Marcos, California, the flag is waving nice and calm in the wind just days before America turns 250 years old. And instead of that being a moment of pride, the Homeowners Association shows up and tells this family to take it down. Now, let me give you my hot take right up front, family, because I'm not going to bury this. An HOA out in California tried to fine people, actual homeowners, for flying the American flag, and they called it a political statement. I want you to sit with that for a second, but here's the tea, family. This board picked a fight with the wrong neighborhood, as you can see, and once people refused to back down, that board folded. And this isn't really about one flag, one garage. This is about how far these HOA boards think their power stretches right up to your own front door. So let's break this down properly, family, because you need the full picture before you can understand why this got so heated. The HOA here is called the Ambience Owners Association. And they sent out a letter telling residents, take your flags down or you're going to get hit with a $100 fine. Now, that's not a warning, family. That's a threat with a dollar amount attached to it. And this is where you meet Chris and Amy Cook, a married couple, lived in a complex, and their flag sits up on what's called the garage fiasco, which is just the board running along the edge of the garage roof line, right? In plain English, it's part of their own house. But the HOA is calling that spot common area property, meaning they are arguing that that piece of the Cook's own home somehow belongs to everybody in the neighborhood, not just to them. Now, here's what makes this hit different for the Cooks family. That flag is up there to honor Chris's grandfather, a man who fought in World War II and came home with the Navy Cross and the Purple Heart, as you guys heard in this clip. Now, well, in the clip, the first clip. Now, let's define those in simple terms so everybody's on the same page. The Navy Cross is one of the highest honors this country gives for pure combat courage. And the Purple Heart means you got wounded or gave your life in service to this country. So when this HOA sends a letter demanding that flag come down, they're not just annoyed about a piece of fabric. They're telling a war hero's family that his sacrifice is now a $100 violation. And it's not just the Cooks either, family. Around the corner, you got Terry Collins, and she's been in that same neighborhood for 35 years with her flag up the entire time. 35 years, family, as you heard in the first clip. Let that sink in. And when she was asked about taking it down, her answer was flat, and it was simple. She said she's not going to be bullied. No hesitation, no long explanation, just a woman standing on her own porch saying enough is enough. Now, here's what this actually looks like in real life, family. Imagine you spent decades paying down a mortgage on a house, raising your kids in that same house, and one day a board of people who don't know your family history mails you a letter saying the flag your grandfather bled for is suddenly a violation. That's not a policy dispute anymore, family. That's personal. And that's exactly why people in this neighborhood stopped seeing this as some small HOA rule and started seeing it as a fight worth having. Now, on the surface, this looks like a simple story about a homeowner's board being difficult, but I want you to hold on to that feeling for a second, family, because once you understand how this actually started, you're going to see this goes a lot deeper than one flag and one fine.
Just days before Independence Day, some Southern California residents are caught up in a fight with their homeowners association. They say their HOA is telling them to take down their American flags or face fines. Correspondent Nancy Liu joins us live. So Nancy, you had a chance to speak to some of these homeowners.
I did, Nicole, and this holiday week is when a lot of Americans proudly display the stars and stripes. In this case, America 250 as well. But residents of one Southern California neighborhood say their patriotism and freedoms are under attack. Terry Collins and her husband have lived in the Ambiance townhouse complex in San Marcos since it opened in 1991. Their children grew up in the neighborhood, and they have proudly displayed an American flag on the front of their home for nearly 35 years. A flag fight surfaced 2 years ago when another resident started flying a Padres flag. Well, the HOA eventually moved to ban all flags, even Old Glory. In a previous letter, residents were told once the members allow use of a common property by an owner to express what is essentially a political or affiliative view in a flag, other owners will want to do the same, and the common area will degrade. Despite a threat of bi-monthly $100 fines, the Collins family has refused to remove their flag, and they have no intention of paying any fines.
You need to stand up for what you believe in, especially the American flag. That is our badge of honor. If we can't serve in the military, we can at least wave a flag outside of our home to show how prideful and how happy we are to live in the United States.
I think it's interesting that it has culminated to this point as we approach Independence Day and the 250th birthday of America. I do have, I think this is why this is gaining steam, and it should. Our flag is a symbol of our freedom.
Neighbors Chris and Amy Cook, they're also defying the ban, especially since this complex is near the Miramar Naval Base and Camp Pendleton. Both families met with the HOA last night, and they were told the panel would table this dispute for 60 days. Now, News Nation, we reached out to the Ambiance HOA for comment, but so far, no response. Nicole?
All right, so Nancy, isn't displaying the flag covered by federal law? How can a homeowners association do something like this?
Well, the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005, it does protect a person's right to fly the flag on their property. HOAs cannot ban the U.S. flag outright, but they can enforce particular requirements. And, there are HOA flag fights all over America right now. In North Carolina, an HOA has served notice to a police veteran over his display of the thin blue line flag, which also honors fallen officers. In South Carolina, a Myrtle Beach homeowner is battling his HOA over the additional flags he's put up inside his screened porch. He argues the flags should be exempt since they're hung from inside. And in multiple communities all over the place, including this one in Austin, Texas, there are ongoing disputes over the display of pride flags. But in many instances, the U.S. flag, the symbol of our country, that is an exception.
Wow.
Nicole?
All right, Nancy Liu.
So there you have it, family. Now, let's get into how this whole thing actually started, family, because this did not begin with the American flag at all. 2 years ago, this fight kicked over a Padres flag. Somebody in the neighborhood was just repping their baseball team, hanging it up on their own property, and that's what set this whole thing into motion. And instead of the HOA just saying, hey, keep sports flags, a certain sides or off to the side somewhere. They want nuclear on it, family. They banned all flags. They want nuclear, every single one, including Old Glory herself. And I want to read you the actual language from their letter because you need to hear how they worded this. They said, and I'm quoting them directly, once the members allow use of a common property by an owner to express what is essentially a political or affiliative view in a flag, other owners will want to do the same and a common area will degrade. Now, let's be fair for a second, family, because I always try to give you both sides before I give you my verdict. Under California law, HOAs are allowed to put some limits on flag size where you can put them. That part is real. That's not me making something up to make this board look worse than it is. They do have some legal footing to regulate placement. But now, here's where it doesn't add up, family. Regulating the size of a flag is one conversation, but calling the American flag a political statement is a completely different conversation. We are in America, right? California is in America. The United States of America. Those are not the same thing. And this board tried to blend them together like nobody would notice. Think about it like this. If a homeowner puts up a flag on their own porch or their own property, that's them decorating their own space. That's not the same as somebody walking into a shared hallway and spray painting graffiti on the wall everybody uses. One is personal, one is public. This HOA wanted you to believe these two things carry the same weight, and they don't. And this is where attorney David Lloyd's point becomes so important, family. He made it clear that even though HOAs are private entities, and they are not bound by the First Amendment the way the government is, that does not mean they get a blank check. They cannot just say no signs, no flags, none whatsoever on your own private property. There's a limit to what they can control. And this board was operating like that limit don't exist or didn't exist. So right there, family, you already see the crack in their argument before we even get to the actual law protecting these families. Now let's talk about the actual law backing these families, because this is just not people running on emotion and patriotism alone. Back in 2005, Congress, as you guys heard, passed something called the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act. Think about that, family. We have to basically pass a law to be able to raise a flag and be able to have a flag out there on display of the country we are in. And in plain English, here's what it does. It stops an HOA from banning you from flying the American flag on property you actually own or have the right to use. That's it. That's the whole thing in one sentence. If they got an ownership interest in that home, they cannot tell you the flag itself is not allowed. And think about why a law like this even needs to exist. Like I said, Congress looked around and realized boards like this one were treating people's own front doors like company property, and they had to step in and draw the line. And this law exists because homeowners kept running into exactly what the Cooks and Terry Collins are dealing with right now. People with a legal stake in their own home getting bullied by a board acting like landlords instead of neighbors. So here's the standoff, family. The HOA threatened these bi-monthly fines, $100 at a time, stacking up every couple months if these flags stayed up. And the family said, no, flags stayed up, fines went unpaid, nobody blinked. Now, here's a detail I need you to sit with for a second. This neighborhood sits close to a Memoir naval base in Camp Pendleton. That means a lot of these residents either serve themselves or their neighbors serve or their kids are stationed a few miles down the road right now. So when a board tells people living in the shadow of two military installations that the flag is a problem, that's not landing the same way it would somewhere else. That's personal in a whole different way. That's personal. So both families sit down with the board, and what happens? The board says they're tabling the dispute for 60 days. Now, let's be real for a second, family, because tabling something is not neutral. When you got real law on one side and a bunch of angry, organized homeowners refusing to pay, and suddenly the board needs 60 more days to think about it, that's not patience. That's backing down slowly enough that they don't have to say the word. And this is not just a San Marcos problem, family. As you guys heard, out in North Carolina, HOA went after a police veteran for flying a thin blue line flag honoring fallen officers. In South Carolina, a homeowner in Myrtle Beach is fighting his own HOA over flags on his screen porch. Same fight, different state, same pattern of boards reaching for control they were never given. So here's my verdict, family, and I'm not going to dance around it. This HOA overstepped. They knew they overstepped. And the second real pressure and real law showed up at their doorstep, they folded. That's it. That's the whole story, script down to the studs. A board full of people got comfortable writing letters and mailing out fines, and they never expected homeowners to actually look up the law and stand on it. When that happened, the whole thing came apart in one meeting. And here's what this really teaches you, family. Way past San Marcos, way past this one HOA. A board, any committee, any little group with a clipboard and a title only holds the power that people hand over. That power isn't real on its own, it's borrowed. It's borrowed from every homeowner who stays quiet, pays the fine, takes the flag down, and doesn't ask a simple question. The minute people stop handing that power over, the minute they say no and mean it, you watch how fast these boards remember they are not in charge of your front door. Now, I want to close this the way I close a lot of these, family, because there's a scripture that fits this whole situation almost too well. Galatians 5, verse 1 says, "Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery." Now, that verse is talking about spiritual freedom, but think about the plain meaning underneath it. Don't let something put a yoke back on you after you already been set free. And that's exactly what these families did. They already had the freedom to fly that flag. It was already theirs. So when the board showed up trying to put a new yoke on something that was already settled, they said no. And they stood firm in what was already true. Now, if you're not a spiritual person, family, here's the same lesson in plain everyday words. Freedom you don't defend quietly disappears, one small rule at a time. It's never one big dramatic moment when your rights get taken. It's $100 fine here, a letter there, and a little rule nobody fights because it feels too small to argue about. And then one day you look up and you're asking permission, I should say, for something that was always yours to begin with. Standing your ground early, even over something as small as a flag on a garage, is what stops a much bigger fight from showing up later. So let me know what you think in the comments, family. Would you have paid that fine, or would you have kept that flag flying no matter what? Hit the like button, share this video with somebody who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications, spread that peace, love, and positivity, and enjoy your 4th of July, family, and the 250th birthday of this amazing country, United States of America. 250 years of this country, family. But let the love supersede the hate, family. Stay safe, stay wonderful, stay amazing. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.